First of all, in your drawing, you've kept a white background. I wouldn't recommend doing that because it's going to make it really hard for you. But because you have kept it white, we can clearly see that this colour here is very blue. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to do. Now you could just colour pick it. When I go through this, I'm going to show you kind of ways to, yes, you may colour pick at the beginning because that will help you understand what colours you're looking at and what ones. It may trick you when you look at them because every colour next to another might look different. But obviously we want to try to not colour pick. The goal is to eventually not have to. So what I like to do first is try and guess the colour. And to do that, you might actually zoom in more, maybe, to see. We're going to try and guess it. So I'm thinking it's somewhere. It's quite a difficult one. Somewhere around here. Not too far off, a little bit too dark. See, my hues was quite spot on, but my values weren't too spot on. I mean, I guess it depends where you're picking from as well, so it could be from here. I quite like this one, more of a mid-tone, and you can always add a bit of light at the back while we're doing it. So my hue wasn't too far off. By hue, I mean this kind of scale here. My values, though, and my saturation, I can't remember. I think it was okay. It was kind of around here, not too bad, a little bit too saturated, but my values were not quite there. Close, though. Okay, so that's the background. Now we got our sketch. So first, I always start below the sketch, and then we do carry on and work our way. So we work on top of the sketch, but the way you know when to move on to the top of your sketch is when the sketch starts to get in the way. So when you're doing details and then you want to go, you feel like this needs to be on top, that's when you change, basically, if that makes any sense. So you might not feel confident with that now, I don't know, but you kind of get a feel for it. It's like, okay, now it's in the way, so let's change that. I've somehow forgotten how to lock. Oh, there. Okay. So I'm just going to call this base. So now we're going to pick a midtone. I have made the sketch a little bit less opacity just so we don't get too distracted by it. And then we're midtone. So I prefer to start usually with the midtones. However, I prefer usually to go with a slightly darker midtone. It's just my preference. So there's no really right or wrong. I guess you could say there's a right to the image, but you don't have to have the exact same colors, values, or similar values, but they have to work together. Like, as long as it works together within your drawing, then that's okay. I think the values are the most important to get right, but the colors, they can be different. They just have to work together. So I'm going to try and base it on this reference, but remember that there is room to play with color. So I quite like this color as like a here, or value and color as a midtone. So I'm going to try and guess what that is. And again, it's best to just try and guess first. I'm thinking it's around here. So I'm going to take this brush. This is the brush I use. It's got a... That looks too light to me. Let's try here. That's all right. Yeah, so my brush you can go on it very soft and it kind of mixes like this if you don't put too much pressure. And then if you go hard, it's kind of like this. And then you can do smaller details as well by making it smaller. And if you see, it's not transparent in the middle, which is important to me, because if it's transparent in the middle, you'll get a lot of overlapping shapes. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Say the opacity is down on the brush, or your brush is just kind of like that, even if the opacity is all the way up. If you go like this, you see how you get these overlapping shapes, and they're a pain to try and like blend. So we don't really want that, if I'm honest. Let's go back. So, what color did I have before? My opacity is down. So yeah, a bit more this way. Let's have a look. Not that bad. It's a little bit too, quite a lot too light. I'm obviously having a day where I'm picking things a bit too light, and I think a little bit too orange. There's quite a lot of nice red hues in this. So yeah, I don't mind this one. Maybe we're getting there. There you go. I don't often try and match the color completely. Honestly, I just kind of choose one and then just go with it. But just for this demonstration, just to show you how you can try at least to match the color. This is quite saturated, so maybe it might distract you. So I'm going to put a little bit down just so it's not distracting you. But again, it doesn't need to be exact. And typically what I find is if it's higher saturation, you will find it a little bit easier with the image, in my opinion. Because if you play and put higher saturation in the image, it's kind of easier to make it pleasing to the eye and harder to make it muddy. With this image that you've chosen, the colors there's saturation in it, which I think it helps, but there's a lot of kind of blue hues, which can easily turn into greys, which they're very close to. So we want to kind of avoid that. Same with the hair. You can see what color we want. Don't mind that color. No, I like that one. And that value. You can, I think in your image you went from grayscale to color, if I'm not mistaken. Although that is a technique that is great and it works for a lot, I don't like it, specifically when you're learning, because it kind of cuts out that. Like, yeah, do a mixture. Like, okay, do some just with grayscale so you can train yourself to look at values first. That's fair. That's kind of what that is for. But don't cut color out, because then you won't really train your eye to be able to see value and color at the same time, which is a skill that's really useful, and it means that you have a step up from anyone who is trying to achieve really solid colors, because you can play with layer modes and achieve some beautiful colors from grayscale, but it's harder, and you know, like, the colors are harder to make richer. So I really recommend practicing in the way that I'm doing right now, so that you can, you know, train your eye, and you won't have to rely going from grayscale first, although I understand why you would also use that technique to practice the values. So I think this looks good. We've got a base. I actually instinctively nearly started rendering with some other values and colors, but I'll stop here for a second. Next, I kind of like to fill out the irises first, so let's have a look at that. Not the irises, the whites in the eyes. The color is very beautiful. It's quite a difficult one to get, because again, these are like not quite grays. Like, are they reds? Are they blues? Are they purples? We don't really know. I'm seeing a slight bluey purple thing going on here. Maybe slightly more to blue. So that's the color I thought. It's quite close. I'm going to stick with that. Maybe the color could be slightly bluer. I don't know. That's what I'm going to stick with. So it will look a bit weird for now, because we haven't done anything else. And obviously, again, like, this is going to be lighter than this one probably in a lot of areas, so we can line that up. Next, see, it's hard for me to quantify this because I kind of do things at weird steps. So what should we do first? Let's do the shadows first. So we kind of want some shadow colors going on. What do we want? This color here, they're all slightly different. So we can always add that later. But I'm gonna pick maybe one like here, maybe this one here. Okay, so maybe similar to our other color, but a bit darker. Yeah, that's pretty close. That's good. That's what we're gonna choose. So you need to kind of take into account the shapes that we're trying to go for, but also just, you know, at this point it's fine to rely heavily on the reference. I don't like how unsaturated it is. I'm going to push the saturation to myself to get a look that I prefer. I'm going to put the value a bit higher up so we don't have too much of a jarring. I don't like to have too much of a contrast while I'm working. I like to build the contrast up because otherwise it's a little bit jarring for you, if that makes any sense. Actually, you know what? I'm going to start this. Sorry, I'm going to go back. I'm going to start this in another layer. Maybe a clipping mask. Okay. So I'm just roughly looking at the image and seeing roughly where this goes. If I put anything that's kind of got a transition, I might use this color and kind of transition that a bit here to make it a bit softer. I like using the color picking from what I already have. Something that I saw that you missed out on your image is the hair is kind of above the face, like there's a gap. So we get this shadow going on. I like to think of it, the bigger the shadow, like by bigger I mean actually like the size of it. Usually that means the further away that thing is from the surface, to a point obviously, because if it's too far away you can't see the shadows, they won't cast a shadow, but if it's further away, kind of it's a bit wider, and then as it gets a bit closer, so here kind of gets a bit closer, the shadow's still there but it's smaller, like this. So that's how I like to think about it. I think this is a little bit dark here. I'm just kind of looking at the reference and seeing like where the shadows are and what the shapes are too with those shadows. So I'm trying to kind of get that shape going on. This is a really nice area here actually for that shape. Good practice. There's a bit of shadow here. And I'm not just, you know, I'm trying to see where there's gaps of light. I'm trying to not cover them too much, just so we have a nice shapes going on with the face. There's something here. Those subtle. And then here, there's definitely a lot to it. Now, I've done this in all the same hue, but if you look at the image, like it's not all the same hue. So we'll be adding that later, maybe soon. But for now, I'm quite happy with this. I think in the hair starts getting kind of more shadows. I really like putting these sort of subtle shadows in the hair, like this. Okay, save. Now here, I'm not happy with how this hue is going, although the value is okay. I see in the image it has a slightly more orange hue, so that's what I want. And that's what we're going to have. Now again, I put the saturation higher than it is there, just because I find that easier, and that's kind of what I like in an image. And it's harder to make things muddier if you do that. There you go. And there is a subtle transition here too, so I'm trying not to get rid of that. Cool, it's good enough. Next, I think that the lips are a little bit distracting like this, so let's kind of go into the lips and try and choose a mid-tone. Lips I find hard to get the right color. Close. I think that's quite good. Not quite. Maybe now a bit too pink. No. It was good pink. I find the lips particularly difficult. That's good. Okay. Let's go back. Add the lips. Now, try and be soft-handed with the lips. You don't want to fill it out like this, because it just doesn't work. You want to be soft. You want soft edges. like this. And I think less is more when it comes to lips. Like, don't fill in all the edges. Now there is a kind of a highlight there, so I'm just gonna pick our mid-tone at the moment. I'm just gonna put it there for now, and then we can build on top of it later, just so we don't kind of forget about it. Anyway, there's some really beautiful shadows on the nose, and I haven't used this colour for it because the colour there is really pretty and it's got more colour to it. So let's pick our shadow that we had and let's play around with the saturation. So when you go right, usually the value goes darker when the saturation goes up. So I want to go a bit upwards when I put the height in the saturation. And then, you know, I'll be soft with my pen, not hard, because that's a bit too saturated. And then if I want to pick this colour and carry on with it, so I don't have to be too soft again, then that's what I do. So I'm kind of using the existing values and colours that we have in order to incorporate what we're trying to achieve. So colour picking from what I already have. But I like this colour here that we got going on. It's nice. You see there's some around the eye here, some under the eye as well, and try to look at our reference to see how that shapes around. Oh, just brought that forward. There's always more saturation, not always, but I like more saturation in the hairline. So that's what we're going to have. Definitely by the ear. That's actually a bit darker in the reference. Good. Oh, we lost our clipping mask. Oh dear, what's going on? There you go. Don't know what happened there. But yeah, I think that's good enough. Now, okay, now let's do some highlights. So we're not going to pick the kind of this specular highlight. I think that's what it's called. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. That's going to be a bit too bright to start with. I like to go a bit slower in it. Now, this won't be like really blue, but clearly something blue is reflecting or shining onto them. It's a light source that's cooler. So I do like to pick quite a blue kind of highlight tone. Lighter. Greeny blue maybe. Quite like greeny blues. My personal preference. But then we're going to see how it interacts when we put it softly onto our skin. We're not going to do it hard like this. Softly. Like this, see? And then we kind of get this new colour that we've made. And I can pick it. So this new colour looks warmer. Because it's kind of pushed more to the grey and the hue's kind of gone down a bit here. Has it gone down? Has it gone up? I can't tell. But anyway, it's gone a bit greyer, which sometimes shows it up a bit warmer when you put it next to a cool colour, which is why it looks kind of warmer here. So we kind of created a new colour based on mixing something that was similar to the background or the light source that's hitting the colour from the light, and then the actual colours we have that we put down for the skin. And I use that a lot because I find that easier to... So the colours that we've chosen, the values kind of work together rather than just picking a whole new thing from somewhere that we not really related. So we're going in, looking at our reference. It's a really beautiful bit here. It's got a softer edge than that. Oh, there's a really nice bit of highlight here too. And we have to be careful because it's quite easy to go too much in a lot of places. It's not equally. So I picked again to make a softer transition there. And then there is quite a nice edge here that we've got going on. I'm not completely happy with how the shape's going, I think, because it needs another transition colour or value. That's better. And then just having a look, make sure that I don't miss any highlights that we got going on. That's quite important. There's kind of a brighter one here that I like. And then we don't want to break it here because there's a bit of a... There. I find it quite easy to break the shapes. Like, we want to try and... The goal is to make it look right with the littlest strokes possible, but I'm not the best at that. I do quite a lot of strokes. Yeah. Simplifications always looks best. And there's quite a nice highlight here. It's quite strong here, actually. It's a bit stronger here. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Goes quite strong here. I don't want to go too strong while I'm practicing things. There you go. But so far it looks alright. Now the whites in the eyes are looking a bit dark, which is fine because they were kind of the shadows. So why don't we pick this colour and make it a little bit lighter. I think it goes slightly towards blue even. Make sure to keep shadows if we need them. There. There you go. Here. Maybe we'll make it a bit darker in the eyes so we don't get too distracted as well. Same as the hair colour. No, that's good. So actually it already is, it's kind of looking, it's coming to life just by those small details that we've been adding, and that blending and that consideration of the colour and the values. Now I don't want to do too much here because I don't want to bore you, it's going to be a really long video. But I think so far, I mean, that's looking quite good. So now to make this come to life more, we'll kind of be going into this, you know, like looking at what we're missing. Like I feel like there's some shadows here, so I'm going to add some here in our reference. There's some transition kind of shadows here that I think is a little bit different colour where the hair meets. So we haven't done, you know, we haven't done any highlights on the hair, so maybe that could be a next thing to do. So let's have a look at that. Hair's not my forte, I have to say, but there is this, you see like in the hair even, there's this nice cooler colour coming through, which I'm not going to start with first because there's quite a lot of warmth around it for a transition. I've gone very dark with the darkest shadow. I haven't really gone for a mid-tone in the hair, actually, now thinking about it. Hair is not my forte, so bear with me. But I'm trying to look at where the shapes are and I'm trying not to overcomplicate it, although it's very easy. I feel like I've already slightly overcomplicated it. This needs to be darker. There's a really dark shadow here, and you know, I think if we look at the shadow, something that Miranda was mentioning, if we pick it, oh, it's blue, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting actually like a dark, the saturation is quite high, like that in itself avoids muddy colours going on, and I think I want mine to be red. See, so you can change things up a little bit. You don't have to stick to the same thing, which is nice. But the saturation is quite high, you know, and that's just shadow, and that's not easy to spot. And that's, a lot of people get that wrong, and it kind of makes a muddy image. But like we're getting there. It needs more. It needs more to it. Maybe clip, yeah. But it's getting there. Specifically, like on the eyes. At this point, I'd probably work more on the eyes. And now, you know, this is the point where, okay, are we going to work above the sketch? Yeah, probably, because we want to go into the eyes, and there's a lot of lines there. So that's when we want to go into that. So So I'm going to carry on, but probably not narrate the rest of it because I feel like I've shown you enough and there's enough to build up on now, but that's kind of the gist of it.
you.